The rain fell hard that night. Cold winds blew through the empty streets of New Eden, a small town on the edge of the old world. The sky was dark, full of thunder, and the ground shimmered with puddles of light from broken street lamps. Most people stayed inside, afraid of the cold, or maybe afraid of what the world had become after the wars. But one man walked alone through the rain. His name was Elias Koren. Elias wore a torn coat and carried a small metal box that gave off a faint orange glow. Inside the box was food, simple, warm stew made from the last of his supplies. His shoes were wet and his hands were shaking, but he didn't stop. He had somewhere to go. At the corner of a half-destroyed building stood an old shelter. The sign above it was broken, the letters fading. Orphan Home Number 42. Inside, a few small children sat in the dark, their faces thin, eyes empty, waiting for someone, anyone, to care. When Elias entered, the children looked up in surprise. They hadn't seen him before. "Who are you?" asked a small girl with tangled hair. Elias smiled softly. "Just a traveler," he said, "but I brought you something warm." He opened the glowing box, and at once the smell of stew filled the air. The children's eyes widened. One by one they gathered around. Elias handed them small metal bowls, filling each with steaming food. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, the orphan shelter was full of quiet sounds, spoons clinking, soft laughter, and the whisper of rain outside. A little boy, no older than 6, tugged at Elias's sleeve. "Why are you helping us?" he asked. Elias looked at him. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing," he said. He didn't explain more. The boy smiled shyly and whispered, "Thank you, mister." Elias stayed until the children fell asleep. He covered them with old blankets, checked the weak heating unit, and quietly repaired it using a few pieces of metal from his pack. When the small room filled with soft, warm air, he looked at them one last time. Outside, the storm grew worse. Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting up the dark clouds. Elias stared upward. Somewhere beyond those clouds, far beyond even the stars, he believed there were others, beings watching, maybe waiting. He had seen them once, 10 years ago. A crash. A strange light in the forest, and a wounded alien child that had looked at him with eyes full of fear. He never told anyone. He had helped that creature heal and sent it back to the sky in silence. Since that night, he had carried a strange mark on his wrist. A thin line of glowing blue, like a scar of light. He didn't understand it, but sometimes it glowed when he looked at the stars. Now, as thunder echoed, Elias whispered, "I hope you're safe, wherever you are." He had no idea that the one he saved was no ordinary alien child, but a royal heir. And one day the stars would come looking for him. The next morning, the storm ended. The children woke to find the man gone, leaving behind a note that said only, "Stay kind. The universe always remembers kindness." Years would pass before they understood what those words meant. Because 10 years later, on a quiet summer night, when the skies were calm and the world had forgotten Elias Koren, a massive royal spaceship would appear above New Eden, shining like a new star, and it would ask for only one man's name. Where is the human who gave the orphans a warm meal? 10 years had passed since that stormy night. The world had changed, but not for the better. Cities had grown colder, machines ruled most of daily life, and the stars above no longer felt like a mystery. They felt like watchers. In the small town of New Eden, people still whispered about the man who once helped the orphans. Some said he had left for the northern mountains. Others said he died in the last border war. But the orphans, now grown into young men and women, knew the truth in their hearts. Elias Koren had disappeared quietly, just as he had lived. Kind, silent, and humble. The oldest of them, Mira, ran the same orphan shelter now. She had turned the broken building into a safe place for other lost children. She still remembered that warm stew, that gentle smile, and the glow from the metal box. She remembered the way Elias looked at the stars that night, like he was waiting for someone. But what she didn't know was that someone was waiting. Far beyond the clouds, it began on a quiet evening. The sky was clear, the air warm, and Mira was helping a boy fix an old solar lamp outside the shelter. Suddenly the ground trembled. The air turned heavy like before a storm, but there were no clouds, only light. A strange hum echoed through the sky. Then out of nowhere, a massive ship appeared, silent, bright, and shining like liquid silver. It floated above the town, covering half the sky. People screamed, ran, or fell to their knees. Some thought it was an invasion. Others thought the end had come, but Mira, she just stared, frozen. The ship's light reflected in her wide eyes. From the center of the ship, a beam of soft golden light spread down to the ground, like sunlight in reverse. It hit the middle of New Eden's town square. The air shimmered, and out stepped a figure, tall in silver armor with eyes that glowed faintly blue. The crowd backed away. The figure looked around, scanning faces, then spoke in a calm, deep voice. "We come for the human called Elias Corrin." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried across every street, every corner. It wasn't just sound, it was power. People looked at each other. No one answered. Mira's heart raced. She took a step forward. Why are you looking for him?" she asked. The armored figure turned toward her. "Because he saved a royal life," he said simply. "And the royal heir of the Varelian Empire does not forget." Gasps spread through the crowd. A few laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. But Mira knew better. The glow in the alien's eyes was the same color as the mark she once saw on Elias's wrist when he helped them that night. "Where is he?" the alien asked again. Mira swallowed hard. "No one knows," she said softly. "He left 10 years ago. He just disappeared." The alien was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Then we must find him, for the heir wishes to repay his debt." Without another word, he raised his hand and a small floating sphere appeared beside him. It projected a glowing image of Elias, older, smiling faintly, wearing the same torn coat. "This is the one we seek," the alien said. Mira stared at the image, tears forming in her eyes. "That's him," she whispered. The alien nodded once and the sphere flew away, splitting into dozens of smaller lights. They scattered through the sky like fireflies, searching every corner of the earth. The ship above hummed louder, its silver surface rippling like water. Then a voice echoed, not from the alien but from the sky itself. A young, soft voice. "Find him, please. The human who gave kindness when I was alone." The crowd fell silent. Mira's breath caught. That voice wasn't mechanical, it was alive. And in that moment she understood. The one who spoke was the child Elias had saved long ago. As the night deepened, New Eden was bathed in alien light. Some people hid, afraid. Others gathered in awe, whispering stories of the kind man who had once given food to orphans. Mira stood still under the stars, her heart pounding. She looked up at the great ship and whispered, "If you're listening, Elias, they're looking for you, and somehow I think you already know." Far away, in the cold mountains beyond the city, a man stood alone, staring at the same light in the sky. The blue mark on his wrist began to glow again, brighter than ever. He smiled faintly. "They finally came," he said quietly. "I knew they would." High above New Eden, where the air turned thin and the snow never melted, stood a small wooden cabin hidden among rocks. Smoke rose from its chimney, fading into the cold wind. Inside, the man everyone had forgotten was still alive. Elias Corrin sat by the fire, his face older, his beard touched with gray. The mark on his wrist, once faint, now shone softly like a living ember beneath his skin. He stared at it, lost in thought. For 10 long years he had stayed away from people, moving from place to place, always hiding. He had no family, no home, but peace in his heart. He never wanted a reward for what he had done that night in the forest so long ago. He had only wanted to help. But now, as he looked through the window and saw the strange light glowing across the distant sky, he knew peace was over. He whispered to himself, "They finally found me, that night." Elias heard something unusual, the sound of engines, soft but powerful, like thunder rolling in a whisper. He stepped outside, snow crunching beneath his boots. Above the clouds, a silver glow flickered. Then from the sky, 3 small crafts broke through the mist and descended toward the mountain. They weren't human ships. He recognized their design immediately. Smooth metal, no wings, no noise, moving like light through water. He didn't run. He just waited. The ships landed nearby, melting the snow around them. From the first one, a figure stepped out, tall, armored, and glowing faintly blue just like before. Behind him came 2 others, scanning the area with small floating lights. The lead alien approached. "Human Elias Corrin," he said, his voice calm yet full of authority. "You are summoned by order of the Varelian royal court." Elias smiled slightly. "I wondered how long it would take you." The alien tilted his head. You knew we would return? I hoped you would, Elias said. But I didn't expect it to take a decade. The alien paused, then removed his helmet. His face was pale silver with eyes like crystal water. He wasn't young nor old, ageless. The heir was too young then. It took years before she learned what you did. Now she rules our world, and her first command was to find you. Elias looked at the stars above. So the child survived. She did, the alien said softly. Because of you. Elias stepped closer. The mark on his wrist glowed brighter, and the alien's eyes widened slightly. The mark, one of them whispered. It still lives within him, the leader nodded. The heir's life bond signal. It was meant to fade after her recovery, but it seems to have bonded permanently. Elias frowned. What does that mean? It means, said the alien, that a piece of the royal heir's life force, her essence, is linked to yours. If you die, part of her dies too. Silence filled the cold air. Elias took a deep breath. That's not what I expected. The alien looked at him with respect. You are not just a savior now. You are part of her life, and by royal decree no one in the Empire is allowed to harm you. Elias let out a soft laugh. That's comforting. The alien's tone softened. She wants to meet you again. To thank you. To repay what no one else could. Elias turned away, staring at the snow-covered valley below. The last time I helped someone, I lost everything I owned. I was hunted for helping a creature no one believed existed. My people called me mad. Perhaps they were wrong, the alien replied. Perhaps kindness is the one thing that connects all worlds. For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire from the cabin flickered behind them, and the sky shimmered faintly with silver light. Finally, Elias nodded. If she remembers me after all this time, then I'll go. The alien raised a small device, pressing it once. A glowing bridge of light extended from the ship to where Elias stood. It hummed gently, inviting him aboard. Elias looked at the mountain one last time. I guess it's time to see the stars again, he whispered. As the ships rose into the sky, snow whipped around them like waves. The ground trembled as they broke through the clouds, heading toward the great royal vessel waiting above the earth. From below, the people of New Eden watched in silence. They didn't know who had left or why the lights had come again, but they all felt something had changed. Mira, standing outside the shelter, looked up and smiled faintly. He's alive, she said. I knew he was, and high above the clouds, Elias Koran, the man who once fed the forgotten, was on his way to meet the child who had become a queen. The stars stretched endlessly outside the window, glowing like living jewels. The royal ship Alindra moved silently through the dark sea of space. Its walls were made of silver glass that shimmered with soft light. For Elias, it was like floating inside a dream. He stood near the window, staring out. For years he had looked up at the night sky from Earth, wondering what was beyond. Now he was here, among the stars themselves. The alien soldier from before, Captain Thalen, stood beside him. The Queen is waiting, Thalen said. His voice was calm, respectful. She has been preparing for this moment since she was old enough to rule. Elias took a breath. You said she remembers me? Thalen nodded. Every day. She carries the mark you left on her soul. To her, you are not just a human, you are a symbol of what our kind forgot long ago. Elias frowned slightly. And what's that? Thalen looked out the window, too. Mercy. They walked down a long corridor filled with glowing lights. Strange symbols danced along the walls. Living technology that pulsed like veins. The air was soft, almost alive. Elias felt the hum of the ship in his bones. When they reached the royal chamber, the doors opened soundlessly. Inside, a tall figure stood facing the stars. Her gown shimmered like liquid crystal, and her hair floated gently as if the air itself moved for her. When she turned, Elias froze. It was her, the alien child he had once rescued from the wreck in the forest. Her eyes were the same soft blue, but now they held power, wisdom, and sadness. She smiled gently. You came, she said, her voice soft and melodic. Elias bowed his head awkwardly. You remembered. I could never forget, she said, stepping closer. When I was small and afraid, you fed me. You didn't ask who I was or what I could offer. You simply gave kindness. In our world, that kind of mercy is rare. You changed me. Elias gave a small smile. I just did what anyone should do. The Queen's gaze deepened. No, Elias Koran. Not everyone would have. And because of that, My people owe you a debt beyond value. She gestured toward a holographic table that appeared between them. A 3D image of Earth glowed above it, spinning slowly. Your planet is changing, she said quietly. You may not see it yet, but storms are rising. There are forces, human and not, preparing to take what is not theirs. You are in danger. Elias studied the image. Danger from who? From those who do not believe in peace, she said. A human corporation has discovered traces of our technology from the crash 10 years ago. They are trying to recreate it. If they succeed, they could tear open a doorway between worlds and start a war. Elias frowned. Then stop them. You have ships, weapons. The Queen shook her head. I cannot interfere directly with Earth's affairs. Our law forbids it. But you, she paused, her eyes glowing faintly. You are linked to me. You can go where I cannot, Elias stepped back. You want me to stop them? She nodded. I want you to protect what you saved before, the same kindness that lives inside you. You have something no technology can copy. He laughed softly. I'm no hero, Your Majesty. I'm just a man who cooks stew and fixes old heaters. The Queen smiled. And yet that small kindness changed an empire. Do not underestimate it. A moment of silence passed between them. Then she raised her hand. A small glowing crystal appeared floating in the air. Take this, she said. It will guide you. It carries a part of my energy, my life force. If you are ever in danger, call upon it. Elias reached out and the crystal settled gently in his palm. It pulsed with a familiar warmth, the same warmth he had felt when he saved her as a child. I don't know what to say, he whispered. Say nothing, she replied. Just remember, the universe remembers kindness. As Elias left the chamber, he glanced back one last time. The Queen stood by the window watching Earth spin in the distance. Her eyes shimmered, full of both hope and fear. Captain Thalen met Elias in the corridor. You're not just a guest anymore, Thalen said quietly. You're part of something much greater. Elias looked down at the crystal in his hand. It glowed softly, matching the mark on his wrist. I don't want to be part of something great, he said. I just want to do what's right. Thalen smiled faintly. That's what makes you different, human. Back on Earth, far below, dark figures moved in secret labs. Machines hummed with stolen alien power. And high above the clouds, Elias Corran began his journey back home, carrying the light of a queen and the weight of a coming storm. The return to Earth was quiet. No grand lights, no music of engines, just the whisper of a ship slicing through clouds and vanishing into the dark. Elias Corran stepped onto the wet ground once again. The air felt heavier now, colder. 10 years away from the noise of cities had made him forget how restless the world could be. He had returned not as a wanderer, but as the chosen messenger of something far greater, a bond between two worlds. He looked down at his wrist. The glowing mark still shimmered softly beneath his skin, pulsing in time with the small crystal the Queen had given him. It was warm, almost alive. He kept it inside his coat pocket close to his heart. The Queen's last words echoed in his mind. The universe remembers kindness, but so do those who fear it. For the first few days, Elias stayed hidden near the outskirts of New Eden. The town had changed. New towers of steel reached into the sky. Drones hovered above streets. And signs of a powerful corporation, Helios Frontier, were everywhere. He soon learned that Helios had grown rich by studying alien technology recovered from old crash sites. They claimed it was for defense, but everyone knew it was about power. Late one night, Elias entered a quiet bar in the lower district. He wore a hood, blending in with the crowd of workers and travelers. On the screen behind the counter, news reports played. Helios Frontier announces Project Dawn, a revolutionary energy core based on unidentified extraterrestrial material. Launch expected within the year. Elias froze. The image on the screen showed a glowing energy orb, the same blue pattern as the Queen's crystal. His heart tightened. That's impossible, he whispered. They've copied it. The bartender looked up. You say something, old man? Elias shook his head. Just the wind, but inside fear began to build. The Queen had warned him. Someone had found the remains of her ship's technology. And now, humans were turning it into something dangerous. That night, Elias followed the city lights to the edge of a tall metal wall marked Helios Sector 7, Restricted Zone. He climbed a nearby hill to watch. Beyond the fence stood rows of labs glowing with blue light. Machines hummed and shadows moved between them. He pulled out the crystal. It glowed brighter than before. He whispered, "Show me." The light in the crystal flickered, then projected faint symbols into the air, alien letters, slowly forming words in his mind. Source energy unstable. Human replication risk catastrophic. Elias's eyes widened. They're going to blow the planet apart. Before he could move, a voice came from behind him. Step away from the fence. He turned slowly. 3 armed guards stood there, their faces hidden behind dark visors. The leader spoke again. Name? Elias Koran, he said calmly. The name seemed to mean something. The guard's weapon lowered slightly. You're on the watch list, the man said. Helios has been looking for you. Elias frowned. Why? The guard's voice turned cold. Because you're connected to the signal. The one from the stars. Within minutes they had surrounded him. But before they could take another step, the crystal in his pocket burst into bright light. The guards shielded their eyes, shouting. The air trembled, and then silence. When they looked again, Elias was gone. He reappeared miles away, standing on the rooftop of an old building. The crystal dimmed, its energy fading, but he was safe. He sat down, breathing heavily. So, that's what you meant by protection, he muttered. He looked across the city, blue lights from Helios towers flashing like warning beacons in the night. If they finish that project, he whispered, it won't just destroy Earth. It'll reach her world too. The next morning, he found a familiar face waiting near the shelter. Mira, he said softly. She turned and gasped. Elias. Tears filled her eyes. You're alive. I thought, he smiled. I don't have much time to explain, but I need your help. Mira nodded instantly. Anything. He looked toward the horizon where Helios towers shimmered under the sun. Those people up there, he said. They're playing with something they don't understand. If we don't stop them, the whole world will pay. Mira's voice trembled. How can we stop a company like Helios? They own everything. Elias looked down at his wrist. The blue mark pulsed again, stronger now. We don't need everything, he said. We just need courage. Far above, in the endless dark of space, the Queen of Virelia stood before her star map, her eyes glowing faintly. She could feel his heartbeat through the bond that connected them. He's begun, she whispered. Captain Thalen approached. Shall we send help? The Queen shook her head slowly. Not yet. Let's see what one human heart can do against the greed of a world. And far below, Elias Koran walked toward the storm. Night had fallen over New Eden, but the city never slept. Blue lights from Helios Frontiers towers painted the skyline, flickering like electric stars. Deep beneath those towers, in a hidden facility called Sector Zero, the company's most secret creation pulsed, Project Dawn. Elias Koran moved like a shadow between rooftops, the cold wind biting his face. Below him, patrol drones hummed, scanning the streets. He watched their lights move in rhythm, memorizing their paths. Every second mattered. Inside his coat, the small crystal the Queen had given him glowed faintly, guiding him with warmth. It almost seemed alive, whispering where to step, when to hide, when to breathe. He whispered under his breath, If you can hear me, Your Majesty, I might need your luck soon. With Mira's help, Elias had found an entrance through an old storm drain that led under the Helios Tower. The air inside was cold and smelled of metal and ozone. They crawled through the narrow tunnel until they reached a massive steel gate. Mira wiped dirt from her face. Are you sure about this? Elias nodded. We don't have time to doubt. If Project Dawn goes live, it could tear open a rift between worlds. Mira's hands trembled as she pulled out a small device, a stolen security pass she had taken from a Helios worker who once stayed at the orphan shelter. I hope this still works. She pressed it against the scanner. The red light turned green with a soft beep. The gate opened, they slipped inside. The room was enormous. Machines lined the walls, each filled with glowing blue energy. At the center, a sphere floated above a metal cradle, bright, pulsing, alive. It looked almost beautiful, until you realized it was breathing. Mira gasped. It's like it's alive. Elias stepped closer. It is alive. They're trying to recreate the Queen's core. He looked up at the monitors. Data streamed across the screen, symbols he recognized from Virelian language. His heart sank. They stole her technology. This isn't just a weapon. It's her life force. Then he noticed something else. The energy signature inside the sphere matched the glow of his mark. The connection between him and the Queen was part of this experiment. They had copied him too. His voice trembled. They used my signal. A cold voice echoed from behind them. Of course we did. Elias spun around. Standing at the door was Dr. Ren Alden, the head of Helios Frontier. He was tall, sharp-eyed, wearing a silver suit that reflected the blue light. Ren smiled thinly. You should be proud, Mr. Corrin. Without your little miracle 10 years ago, this project would never have been possible. Elias clenched his fists. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Oh, I do, Ren said calmly. A new era. Infinite energy. Immortality. Your alien queen has kept this power locked away from us. I'm just giving humanity what it deserves. Mira stepped forward. You'll destroy everything. That core isn't stable. Ren laughed softly. Stability is a small price for greatness. He pressed a command on his wrist console. The sphere's light flared brighter, humming with deep energy. Alarms began to ring. Elias shouted, You're tearing space apart. Shut it down. Ren ignored him. Soon, the barrier between worlds will fall, and Earth will no longer be small and weak. But the moment he said those words, the crystal in Elias's pocket blazed to life. The light filled the entire chamber, overpowering the machines. Ren stumbled back, shouting, What is that? Elias's voice echoed, steady and calm. That's kindness, Doctor. Something your machines can never build. The sphere's glow twisted, and suddenly a vision appeared. Images of the Queen, of her world, of the moment Elias saved her. The machines flickered wildly. Sparks flew. The core screamed, a living sound that shook the walls. Elias, Mira cried. It's going to explode. He turned to her, eyes filled with calm fire. Get out, now! She shook her head. No, go, he shouted. Someone has to survive this. Tears filled her eyes, but she obeyed. She ran, disappearing through the tunnel as alarms roared behind her. Elias turned back to the core. His mark glowed brighter and brighter, syncing with the sphere. The Queen's voice echoed faintly in his mind. Elias? Don't give your life for ours, he smiled faintly. I'm not giving it. I'm returning what was never mine. He raised the crystal toward the core. The two lights met and merged. The explosion never came. Instead, a wave of blue light swept across the entire facility, freezing machines midair, silencing alarms. The walls shimmered as if reality itself bent. When it cleared, the sphere was gone. So was Elias. Miles away, Mira stood outside the collapsing tower, watching the night sky burst with blue light. The Helios symbol flickered and died. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. And far above the earth on the royal ship Elindra, the Queen gasped as her wrist glowed with light, the same pulse as his. Thalen looked at her. Your Majesty? She whispered, voice trembling. He saved both our worlds. Again. The world woke to silence. The towers of Helios Frontier, once glowing blue with stolen power, now stood cold and empty. Every light, every machine, every drone had shut down at the same moment. The second Elias Corrin vanished in the wave of light. No explosion, no fire, just stillness. In the days that followed, people spoke of what they saw. A great beam rising from the earth to the heavens, then fading into a single star that burned brighter than any other. Scientists called it an anomaly, but the people of New Eden called it something else. They called it Elias's star. Mira sat outside the old orphan shelter, watching that star each night. The children she cared for would point at it and ask, Is he up there? She always smiled softly. Yes, she'd say. He's watching us. And he's not alone. But she knew it was more than just a story. She had seen the crystal's light, felt its warmth, and heard the voice that came through it in her dreams. A gentle whisper that said, Keep them safe. Still, deep inside, she hoped he was alive somewhere. Far beyond Earth, in the endless sea of stars, the royal ship Elindra drifted in silence. Inside, alarms had stopped. The Queen of Virelia sat on her throne, her hand pressed to her chest. The mark on her wrist glowed faintly blue. His essence is gone from this world, Captain Thalen said softly. The Queen's eyes filled with tears, a rare sight for a being of her kind. No, she whispered. Not gone, changed. She rose and walked to the window. Outside, a new star shimmered brighter than the rest. Do you see it? She asked. Thalen nodded. It appeared the moment he vanished. Our sensors can't explain it. The Queen smiled through her tears. You can't measure kindness, Thalen. It leaves light where there was none. Days later, strange signals began to echo across both worlds. Faint, rhythmic pulses that neither human nor Varelian scientists could decode. When translated through the Queen's technology, they formed a simple message repeated endlessly through the void. Protect the weak. Feed the forgotten. Be kind, the Queen closed her eyes as she heard it. He left a message for us all, she said. Thalen bowed his head. A creed born from one man. Meanwhile, on Earth, Helios' frontier collapsed. Their leaders vanished, their research lost. But something new rose from the ruins. The Elias Foundation, built by Mira and the grown orphans who had once known hunger. They opened shelters across cities, feeding anyone in need. No one was turned away. Above each door, carved into metal, were the same words from Elias's final message. Mira often stood beneath those words, smiling at the people who came seeking help. He'd have liked this, she would say softly. Sometimes, when the night was quiet, the blue mark on her own wrist, a gift left by the crystal's last light, would glow faintly. She didn't tell anyone. It was her secret reminder that he was still out there somehow. One evening, years later, Mira sat alone under the stars. She watched Elias's star shining stronger than ever. The children had gone to bed and the world outside was peaceful. Suddenly, the air shimmered around her. A soft hum filled the air, the same hum she'd heard a decade ago when the royal ship first appeared. She stood, heart pounding. A beam of golden light descended from the sky, gentle and warm. Within it, a figure began to take shape, tall, calm, familiar. Her breath caught. "Elias?" she whispered. He stood before her, smiling faintly, wearing the same old coat. His eyes were calm, full of peace. The blue mark still glowed on his wrist. She took a step forward, tears falling. "Is it really you?" He nodded slowly. "Not as I was. But I'm here." She reached out, but her hand passed through his, soft as light. "I'm part of something bigger now," Elias said gently. "The Queen found a way to bring balance between our worlds. My life was the bridge. And now it's complete," Mira sobbed. "We missed you. I never left," he said. "Every act of kindness keeps me here. Every meal shared, every child helped. That's where I live now." The light around him began to brighten. "Tell them," he said softly. "The stars remember kindness always." Then, like a dream fading with dawn, he was gone. Mira looked up at the sky again. Elias's star pulsed once, like a heartbeat, then shone even brighter. She smiled through her tears. "He kept his promise," she whispered. And somewhere beyond the stars, the Queen of Varelia stood on her ship, looking at the same light. "Rest well, Elias Corin," she said. "You taught us what no empire ever could."